My wife chose her phone over intimacy for years and lied about headaches. I tracked the pattern, exposed the neglect, filed for divorce, and walked free. When you realize you've been played for months, maybe even years, that's exactly what happened to me on a Tuesday night. That night changed everything. My wife looked me straight in the eye, complained about a splitting headache, and then spent the next 2 hours glued to her phone, laughing and scrolling like she didn't have a care in the world. Let me paint the picture for you. We'd been married for 4 years, and somewhere along the way, intimacy had become as rare as finding a parking spot downtown. Every approach I made was met with the same rotation of excuses: too tired, headache, stressed from work, not in the mood. The usual playlist of rejection that had become our new normal. I'm not unreasonable, I get it. Life happens. People get tired. But this particular night, something felt different. Something that would make me question everything I thought I knew about my marriage. It was around 10:30 when I made my move. We were both in bed, and I leaned over, gently touching her shoulder. The response was immediate and predictable. "Not tonight, honey. I have this terrible headache. I just need to rest." Classic. I backed off immediately, genuinely concerned about her well-being. Of course, I understand. Feel better. I even meant it. I rolled to my side of the bed, giving her space to recover from whatever was bothering her. That's when the real show started. 5 minutes. That's how long her terrible headache lasted before I saw the glow of her phone screen lighting up her face. At first I thought maybe she was checking the time or setting an alarm. But 10 minutes turned into 15. 15 turned into 30. I'm lying there listening to soft giggles coming from her side of the bed. Actual laughter from someone who supposedly had such a splitting headache that she couldn't handle any physical contact with her husband. By 11 o'clock, she was fully engaged with whatever was on that screen. I could hear the faint sounds of videos playing, the subtle tap-tap-tap of typing, more quiet laughter. This wasn't someone suffering from a headache. This was someone having the time of her life. The irony hit me like a freight train. She had energy for everything except me. She could focus on that tiny screen for extended periods, engage with whatever content was entertaining her, but 5 minutes of attention to her actual husband? Absolutely impossible due to medical reasons. I started timing it. 11:15, still scrolling. 11:30, now she was clearly watching something, probably videos. Midnight came and went. She was commenting on posts, I could tell by the way she was typing. 12:15, she was deep into some social media rabbit hole. The whole time, I'm just lying there watching this performance unfold, watching my wife prioritize complete strangers on the internet over the man lying right next to her. The man she promised to love and cherish, who was now being treated like an inconvenience, while her phone got the royal treatment. Finally, around 12:30, the screen went dark. 2 full hours. 2 hours of active engagement with social media after claiming she was too unwell for 30 seconds of physical connection with her husband. But here's the thing that really got to me. It wasn't just the time. It was the energy. She had been animated, engaged, clearly enjoying herself. The same woman who couldn't muster the strength to be intimate was suddenly a social media butterfly, fluttering from app to app with unlimited enthusiasm. I lay there staring at the ceiling, as pieces of a puzzle finally came together. This wasn't an isolated incident. This was a pattern I'd been too blind or too trusting to notice. How many other nights had played out exactly like this? How many times had I accepted her excuses while she immediately turned to her phone for entertainment? The worst part? I had been genuinely worried about her. I had respected her boundaries and backed off like a considerate husband should. Meanwhile, she was probably scrolling through content, chatting with friends, maybe even complaining about her boring husband to her online audience. That night changed something fundamental in me. Not just anger or frustration, but clarity. Crystal clear vision about what my marriage had actually become. I wasn't competing with another man. I wasn't even competing with work stress or genuine health issues. I was competing with a piece of technology, and losing. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. That's what happened to me over the next 2 weeks. What I thought was just one bad night turned out to be the blueprint for our entire marriage, and I had been too naive to connect the dots. I decided to pay attention. Real attention. Not in a creepy, obsessive way, but with the awareness of a man who finally realized he might be getting played in his own home. Thursday night, 3 days after the headache incident, I approached her again. This time, we'd had a perfectly normal evening, dinner together, some light conversation about our days. Everything seemed fine. When bedtime came around, I made my intentions clear in the most respectful way possible. I'm exhausted from work today. Can we just cuddle and go to sleep? Exhausted from work, right? I watched her grab her phone before the words had even finished leaving her mouth. This time I didn't roll over and pretend to sleep. I watched the clock, 10:45 to 12:30. 1 hour and 45 minutes of scrolling through whatever digital playground had captured her attention this time. She went through what seemed like every social media app known to mankind. The soft glow never left her face, and neither did the subtle sounds of engagement, likes, comments, shares, messages. But she was too exhausted for her husband. Saturday brought a new excuse. I'm just not feeling well today. Something I ate maybe. By 9:30 that night, she was deep into what appeared to be online shopping, followed by a lengthy text conversation with someone that had her typing furiously and occasionally laughing out loud. Not feeling well, but perfectly capable of retail therapy and animated conversations with whoever was lucky enough to get her attention that night. Sunday was my favorite. I'm just not in the mood tonight. Sorry. Not in the mood for intimacy, but apparently very much in the mood for watching videos that made her laugh so hard. I could feel the bed shaking for 2 straight hours. The pattern was undeniable now. Every single rejection was immediately followed by extended phone sessions. Not just casual browsing, but active, engaged, energetic participation in the digital world. The same energy she claimed not to have for me. I started keeping a mental scorecard. Not because I'm petty, but because I needed to be sure I wasn't imagining things. Monday night, too tired. 90 minutes on what sounded like video calls with friends. Wednesday, headache again. 2 hours of social media scrolling, complete with the occasional snort of laughter. Friday was the breaking point for my patience. She didn't even bother with a creative excuse this time. Just a flat not tonight before rolling over and immediately reaching for her phone, like I was some kind of interruption to her real evening plans. I watched her scroll through content for over 2 hours that night. Videos, photos, articles, messages. She was more engaged with that screen than she'd been with me in months. Her face was lit up, literally and figuratively. She was enjoying herself, completely absorbed in whatever digital entertainment was keeping her company. Meanwhile, I'm lying there like a piece of furniture, present but irrelevant, taking up space but contributing nothing to her happiness or entertainment. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about being tired or having headaches or not being in the mood. This was about priorities, and I had been demoted to somewhere below social media influencers, random internet content, and whoever she was texting at midnight. The most insulting part wasn't the rejection. It was the lie. If she had just said, "I'd rather spend time on my phone than with you," at least that would have been honest. Instead, she was manufacturing health issues and emotional states to avoid intimacy, then immediately proving those excuses were complete fabrications. She had energy for everything except me. Enthusiasm for everything except our marriage. Time for everything except the man who worked every day to build a life with her. I realized I wasn't just being neglected. I was being disrespected in the most fundamental way possible. She thought I was stupid enough to believe her excuses while she flaunted her real priorities right in front of me. But here's what really got under my skin. The calculation behind it all. She wasn't just choosing her phone over me spontaneously. She was planning it. Crafting excuses that would get her out of intimacy so she could dive into her digital world without guilt or interruption. Every rejection was strategic. Every excuse was designed to make me the bad guy if I complained. After all, what kind of husband pressures his wife when she has a headache? What kind of man doesn't understand when his wife is tired from work? Except she wasn't tired. She wasn't sick. She was just done pretending that our marriage mattered more than her screen time. 2 weeks of observation taught me everything I needed to know. My wife had checked out of our marriage and checked into a virtual world where I didn't exist, where I wasn't invited, where I was nothing more than an inconvenience interrupting her real relationships with apps, content creators, and whoever else was lucky enough to get her genuine attention and energy. 2 weeks of watching this circus was enough. I had all the evidence I needed, and more importantly, I had reached my limit of being treated like an idiot in my own marriage. It was time for a conversation. I chose my moment carefully, Saturday morning after coffee, when we were both relaxed and there was no rush to be anywhere. I wasn't looking for a fight. I was looking for honesty, which apparently had become a rare commodity in our house. "How's your headache from the other night? You seem to recover pretty quickly." She looked up from her phone. Of course she was on her phone. It was like an extension of her hand at this point. "What headache?" "Tuesday night. You said you had a terrible headache, but then you spent 2 hours on your phone right after." I kept my tone neutral, factual, just stating what happened. No accusations, no anger, just giving her a chance to explain the obvious contradiction. Oh, that, she waved it off like it was nothing. That's completely different. Looking at my phone doesn't require physical energy like that. There it was, the rationalization I'd been expecting. She actually thought I would buy this logic. But you were laughing, commenting, watching videos. You seem to have plenty of energy for all of that. It's not the same thing, she insisted, getting slightly defensive now. I can browse social media even with a headache. It's relaxing. Relaxing. 2 hours of active engagement with social media was relaxing, but 30 minutes with her husband was too physically demanding. The mental gymnastics were impressive. So you're telling me you can focus on a screen for 2 straight hours, laugh at videos, type messages, and have conversations, but you can't handle being close to your husband? You're being ridiculous. Of course I can be on my phone even with a headache, but you can't be intimate with the man you married. That's when her tone shifted. Defensive became annoyed, like I was the problem for pointing out the obvious inconsistency. Why are you making such a big deal about this? People use their phones to unwind. It's normal. Normal? She thought it was normal to lie to her husband's face and then immediately prove the lie was fabricated. The big deal isn't the phone use. The big deal is the dishonesty. If you don't want to be intimate, just say so. Don't make up health problems. I wasn't making anything up. I did have a headache. A headache that mysteriously disappeared the moment you picked up your phone. She stared at me for a long moment, clearly trying to decide which direction to take this conversation. She could admit the truth, or she could double down on the lies. Guess which one she chose. You know what? Fine. Maybe the headache got better. Maybe being on my phone helped distract me from it. Is that okay with you? The sarcasm was thick enough to cut with a knife. She was treating me like I was being unreasonable for expecting honesty in my own marriage. What's not okay is the pattern. Every time you reject intimacy, you immediately spend hours on your phone. Every single time. That's not true. Monday night, too tired. 90 minutes scrolling. Wednesday, stressed from work. 2 hours on social media. Friday, not in the mood. 2 hours watching videos. I laid out the evidence calmly, methodically. No emotion, just facts, dates, times, duration. The pattern was undeniable. You're keeping track? She looked genuinely shocked, like the idea that her behavior was noticeable was surprising to her. I'm paying attention. There's a difference. This is crazy. You're being controlling and paranoid. And there it was. The deflection. Instead of addressing the behavior, she attacked me for noticing it. Classic manipulation. Make the person pointing out the problem into the problem. I'm not trying to control anything. I'm trying to understand why my wife lies to me about being sick and then proves she's perfectly fine by spending hours on social media. I'm not lying about anything. Then explain it to me. Help me understand how you can be too unwell for physical contact but perfectly capable of everything else. She went quiet for a moment, probably trying to craft another excuse, but she had painted herself into a corner with her own contradictions. Look, sometimes I just need space, okay? Sometimes I don't want to be physical, and that's my right. Finally, a glimpse of honesty. Not complete honesty, but closer than we'd been in months. You're absolutely right. It is your right. But it's also my right to expect honesty about it. If you need space, say you need space. Don't manufacture symptoms. Whatever. I don't see why this is such a huge issue. That response told me everything I needed to know. She didn't see lying to her husband as a huge issue. She didn't see prioritizing social media over intimacy as a huge issue. She didn't see any problem with her behavior at all. The issue is respect. When you lie to me, you're telling me you think I'm too stupid to notice. When you choose your phone over our marriage night after night, you're showing me where your priorities really are. That's not what I'm doing. Then what are you doing? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've decided that strangers on the internet are more interesting than your own husband. She didn't have an answer for that. She just stared at me with a mixture of annoyance and maybe a hint of guilt, but mostly annoyance. The conversation ended there, but nothing was resolved. She'd been caught in her pattern of lies and deflection. But instead of taking responsibility, she had tried to make me the villain for noticing. That told me everything I needed to know about where this marriage was heading. After that first confrontation, things changed. Not for the better. She didn't stop the behavior, but she did get sneakier about it and more aggressive when called out. The very next week, she pulled the same routine. I'm just exhausted tonight. But this time, instead of immediately grabbing her phone, she waited, pretended to try to sleep for about 10 minutes before slowly reaching for it like I wouldn't notice. I didn't even wait this time. Feeling better already? She turned to look at me, and the mask was completely off now. No more fake concern or confusion, pure irritation. Are you seriously going to monitor everything I do now? I'm not monitoring anything. I'm just pointing out that your exhaustion seems very selective. This is insane. You're being controlling. There was that word again. Controlling. Apparently, expecting basic honesty from your spouse makes you controlling in her world. How is asking for honesty controlling? Because you're trying to dictate when I can and can't use my phone. I never said anything about when you can use your phone. I said stop lying about why you won't be intimate. But she was already shifting into full attack mode. You know what? Maybe if you weren't so demanding all the time, I'd be more interested. Demanding, for wanting intimacy with my own wife, for expecting her to be honest about her reasons for avoiding it. Demanding how? By asking why you lie to me, by keeping score of everything I do, by timing how long I'm on my phone, by making me feel guilty for relaxing. She was rewriting history in real time, making herself the victim of my unreasonable expectations of basic honesty. You feel guilty because you know what you're doing is wrong. What am I doing exactly? You're prioritizing social media over your marriage every single night. That's ridiculous. Is it? When's the last time you spent 2 hours talking to me? When's the last time you gave me the same attention and energy you give your phone? She didn't have an answer because we both knew the truth. I work all day. I deserve to unwind however I want. And I don't deserve honesty from my wife? I am being honest. No, you're not. You're making up excuses to avoid intimacy, then immediately proving those excuses are lies. I'm not making up anything. Then explain last Tuesday. Terrible headache, remember? Too sick for physical contact, but somehow healthy enough for 2 hours of social media. I told you, that's different. How? How is that different? Because it just is. That was her argument. Because it just is. No logic, no explanation, just pure stubbornness. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting. And there it was. The truth finally came out. She didn't have a real explanation because there wasn't one. She was choosing her phone over me and didn't want to admit it. So you're just going to keep lying to me? I'm not lying. Then what do you call it? I call it having boundaries. I call it being allowed to choose how I spend my time. Boundaries. She was calling dishonesty boundaries. Your boundary is lying to your husband? My boundary is not having to justify every decision to you. I'm not asking you to justify every decision. I'm asking you to stop making up medical excuses. Whatever. I'm done with this conversation. She rolled over and grabbed her phone, right there, right in front of me, like she was proving a point. Really? You're going to do it again right now? I'm going to do whatever I want. You're not my father. I'm your husband, or at least I used to be. That got her attention. She turned back around. What's that supposed to mean? It means I married a woman who respected me enough to be honest with me. I don't know who you are anymore. You're being dramatic. Am I? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've already decided this marriage isn't worth your time or attention. That's not true. Prove it. Put the phone down and have a real conversation with me. She looked at the phone in her hand, then back at me. For a moment, I thought she might actually choose her husband over her screen. Instead, she turned away and started scrolling. I thought so, I said to her back. Thought what? I thought you'd choose the phone. You always do. The breaking point came 3 days later. I had reached my limit of playing games with someone who clearly had no respect for me or our marriage. She tried the routine again. I'm just not feeling it tonight. This time, I didn't let it slide. I didn't wait for her to grab her phone and prove she was lying. I addressed it head on. Cut the act. We both know you're about to spend the next 2 hours on social media. She froze, phone halfway to her face. Excuse me? You heard me. Drop the fake excuses and just tell me the truth for once. I don't know what you're talking about. Fine. Let's do this the hard way. I sat up in bed, facing her directly. You're not tired. You don't have a headache. You're not stressed. You're just not interested in being intimate with your husband. Say it. You're being ridiculous. Say it. Stop hiding behind made-up symptoms and just admit what we both already know. She stared at me for a long moment, clearly calculating whether to keep up the charade or finally be honest. Fine. Maybe I'm just not interested in that anymore. Is that what you want to hear? Finally. The truth. Actually, yes. Honesty is exactly what I want to hear. But here's the thing. If you're not interested in intimacy with your husband, then maybe you're not interested in being a wife. That's not fair. What's not fair is months of lies. What's not fair is pretending to be sick when you just don't want me anymore. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You have energy for everything except me. You engage with strangers online more than your own husband. Your phone gets more attention, affection, and priority than I do. She tried to interrupt, but I wasn't done. Every night I watch you light up for social media the same way you used to light up for me. You laugh at videos. You comment on posts. You text friends for hours. But 30 seconds of attention for your husband? Impossible. That's different. How? How is it different? It just is. No, it's not. It's a choice. You choose to give your best energy to everyone except me. She went quiet, probably realizing she couldn't defend the indefensible. You want to know what's really pathetic? I actually believed your excuses. I was genuinely concerned about your health. I backed off because I thought I was being a good husband. You were being a good husband. No, I was being a fool. A good husband would have called you out months ago. Called me out for what? For checking out of our marriage? For prioritizing social media over intimacy? For lying to my face every single night? I wasn't lying. Stop. Just stop. We're past that now. You already admitted you're not interested anymore. She looked down at her phone, still clutched in her hands like a security blanket. So what now? You're going to punish me for being honest? Punish you? I'm going to thank you. You just saved me months of wondering what was wrong with our marriage. Nothing's wrong with our marriage. Everything's wrong with our marriage. You'd rather spend 2 hours with strangers on the internet than 2 minutes with me. That's not true. When's the last time you put that phone down for an entire evening? When's the last time you chose me over your screen? Silence. I thought so. You can't even remember, can you? This is stupid. People use their phones. It's normal. What's normal is being honest with your spouse. What's normal is making your marriage a priority. I do make our marriage a priority. No, you don't. You make your digital life a priority. I'm just the guy who pays half the bills and sleeps on the other side of the bed. You're being dramatic. I'm being realistic. You checked out of this marriage months ago. You just never bothered to tell me. She finally looked up from her phone, and I could see something in her eyes. Maybe guilt, maybe realization, maybe just annoyance at being called out. So, what do you want me to do? I want you to admit what we both know. You're not my wife anymore. You're just someone who lives in my house and lies to me about headaches. That's harsh. It's honest, something you should try sometime. Fine. You want honesty? Here's honesty. Maybe I don't want to be intimate because you've become bitter and controlling. There it is, the real truth. It's my fault you lied to me. It's my fault you choose social media over our marriage. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Everything is always someone else's fault with you. She turned away, clutching her phone tighter. I'm done with this conversation. So am I. I'm done with all of it. That conversation changed everything. Not because she suddenly saw the error of her ways, but because I finally saw our marriage for what it really was. A one-sided relationship, where I was competing with technology for my own wife's attention. And losing every single night. The next morning I made my decision. Not in anger, not in spite, but with the kind of clarity that only comes when you stop lying to yourself. I found her in the kitchen scrolling through her phone while her coffee got cold. Even first thing in the morning, the phone took priority over everything else. We need to talk. She didn't even look up. I thought we talked enough last night. We did. That's why this will be quick. Finally, she glanced at me, probably hearing something different in my tone. I'm done competing with your phone for your attention. Here we go again. No, we're not going again anywhere. This is where it ends. That got her full attention. She actually put the phone down. What do you mean? I mean, I'm not going to spend another night watching you choose social media over your husband. I'm not going to listen to another fake excuse about headaches while you prove you're perfectly fine by scrolling for hours. You're overreacting. I'm underreacting. I should have addressed this months ago instead of making excuses for you. So what are you saying? I'm saying I married a woman, not a social media addict who lies about headaches. Since your phone is clearly your priority, maybe it should be your only companion. You can't be serious. Dead serious. You have energy for everything except what matters. You engage with strangers more than your own husband. You give more attention to apps than to our marriage. That's not true. It's completely true. And we both know it. Your phone gets 2 hours of your attention every night. Our marriage gets 2 minutes of excuses. She tried to interrupt, but I wasn't finished. You know what the worst part is? I actually respected your boundaries. When you said you had a headache, I believed you. When you said you were tired, I backed off. I was trying to be a good husband while you were playing games. I wasn't playing games. You were playing games, and you lost. You gambled that I would keep accepting your lies indefinitely. You bet wrong. This is crazy. You're throwing away our marriage over phone use. I'm not throwing away anything. You already threw it away. I'm just acknowledging what happened. Nothing happened. People use their phones. It's normal. What's not normal is lying to your spouse every single night. What's not normal is prioritizing social media over intimacy. What's not normal is treating your husband like he's less important than random internet content. She stared at me, finally understanding that this wasn't just another argument. So that's it? You're giving up on us? There is no us. There hasn't been for months. There's you, your phone, and the guy who pays half the bills. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. Something you should have tried. Fine, if that's how you feel, maybe we should separate. We already are separated. You separated yourself from this marriage the moment you decided social media was more important than your husband. I never said that. You didn't have to say it. You proved it every single night. The conversation ended there because there was nothing left to say. She had made her choice months ago. I was just finally accepting it. The divorce was quick and clean. No drama, no fighting over assets, just two people who had clearly wanted different things from life. 6 months later, I found someone who understands that marriage means making your spouse a priority. Someone who puts her phone down when I walk in the room. Someone who chooses connection over digital distraction. Meanwhile, she's still single, posting complaints on social media about how modern men are insecure and don't understand boundaries. She's still choosing her screen over real relationships, still wondering why nothing works out. The irony is perfect. She wanted unlimited phone time without any interference from her husband. Now she has exactly that. Unlimited screen time and no husband to bother her about it. Last week, a mutual friend told me she's been posting about feeling lonely and disconnected, about how hard it is to find genuine connection in today's world. The same woman who chose digital connection over her husband is now complaining about the lack of real connection in her life. She had a man who wanted nothing more than to connect with her, to be close to her, to build something real together. She chose her phone instead. Now she gets to scroll through other people's relationships, other people's connections, other people's happiness. She gets to be a spectator to the life she could have had if she hadn't been so busy staring at a screen. You said I was giving you a headache. Good. Now you can scroll through dating apps looking for someone else to give headaches to. I found someone who makes me her priority, not her last option. Someone who saves her best energy for me. Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in next story. See you soon.